legacy starts and ends with stories. When I was in the 3rd grade, I had my first article published in the province newspaper. My teacher had asked us to write our thoughts about what was going on in the Gulf War. And I didn't really understand what was going on, but I knew that and prayed that countries and their leaders would learn to forgive each other and have joy. This was a sign that I had a passion for social good, which I didn't know at the time. But what I did know was that I had a passion for writing. I went from writing short stories in elementary school to darker poetry in high school and university, and I ended up getting some of that published in university journals. I graduated in English literature and film studies, and I started writing film reviews. I got my first job at a public relations firm in 2007. In 2005, and my writing started to develop into more corporate storytelling. We would put on red carpet parties, political fundraisers, and other types of events, and I would see our clients' faces light up if they saw their name published in the news or if media came to cover their events. I left that job in 2007, and I watched a powerful documentary called Earthlings, narrated by Joaquin Phoenix. This movie showed me the ways in which we harm animals, especially for food. That night I vowed that I would eat less meat, and years later, I call myself 80% vegan and 20% flexitarian, and I'm proud of saving almost 200 animals from being eaten each year. I started my own company in 2008 and navigated to the industries that I knew the most, film and entertainment, and then fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. In 2009, I had this idea of a better PR company that told better stories of what we saw in the news. But I listened to what my head told me, which was that I should portray the image of being a successful publicist rather than run a company that reflected my own values. In 2011, that whisper became a loudspeaker. And I worked with an amazing intuitive healer on an event who introduced me to more businesses and like-minded souls and networking groups who are contributing to what I now call the conscious movement. In 2012, I launched the Conscious Public Relations brand with the goal of aligning with more companies and brands who match my values of social and environmental good. Since then, I've had the absolute pleasure of working with people like Dr. Suki, who grew up in a life of crime, violence, and drugs, and who's now an author, chiropractic doctor with the Wellness Center, and Ironman athlete. I've worked with sustainability advisors, documentary filmmakers, natural skincare spas, and skincare lines and spas, and with companies like VIP Bin Cleaning, who use recycled water to clean garbage and green bins, and who encourage us to recycle our food waste. This year, I'm so honored to be a part of a new social movement called G-Day. Founded by Madeline Shaw and Luna Paz, the inaugural event on April 28th aims to celebrate, empower, and inspire girls aged 10 to 12 in their transition into adolescence. It's the kind of event that I wish I had when I had those burning questions about becoming a woman. With the companies that I work with, I don't feel so alone in my mission to change what we see in the news for the better. Together, we share the same values of community, connection, ethics, learning, and service. And with all of the changes going on in the media right now, there is no better time to start demanding and telling better stories in what we see in the news. My legacy ends with the story of my paternal grandfather, who turns 100 this July. For the last 10 years, my family has been gently pressuring me as the writer in the family to write and publish his life story, since the only records of his life that we have are from photos or stories that he's told us. My grandfather grew up poor in a small town called Tambo in the province of Gapan in the Philippines. He walked 7 kilometers every day in his bare feet to school. And in middle school, he was chosen out of his 8 other siblings to go to Manila and get a better education. He graduated in civil engineering, and he wanted to become a pilot. He joined the Philippine Army Air Corps, And in 1941, the Second World War was underway. He married my grandmother in December 1941 and evacuated to a POW camp on the Bataan Peninsula. In April 1942, he would embark on what would later be known as the Bataan Death March, in which up to 75,000 American and Filipino soldiers walked up to 80 miles to a camp called Camp O'Donnell. Thousands died on that march, but he miraculously survived and was released in July 1942 from malaria and malnutrition. He went on to become one of the first pilots at the Philippine Airlines and the San Miguel Corporation. He had 7 children, 16 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. This heirloom book that I'm publishing is an important part of not only my legacy, but his as well, and the generations that come after me. In thinking about the legacy that you want to leave, I ask you this: where does your story start and end? Does it start in small towns or times of war like my grandfather's did? And where do you envision that ending? I guarantee you, if you think about that, maybe write it down, tell somebody, start a blog, or even write a book. Whatever you do, take action on it from a place here as well as up here. And I guarantee you